How you doing, guys? I wanted to make a video about one of the best ways ever to start a fire. Actually, it may not be one of the best ways, but it's certainly useful, and it's definitely one of the coolest ways to start a fire ever, and that is thermite. I've got some right here. This is thermite in its unmixed form. If you don't know what thermite is, it's actually a chemical reaction that starts when aluminum and iron oxide, which is basically rust, are ignited at high, they're mixed in certain ratios and ignited at a high temperature. It starts a thermite reaction, which gives off an incredible amount of heat, produces its own oxygen, so you actually can't even put it out with water. It can happen underwater once it's ignited, and the actual end result is molten iron left behind. But in the process of the reaction, it gives off an incredible amount of heat, can start a fire in almost any conditions, and because of that, it's very useful in a survival situation. You still have to have like a lighter or some other method to start a fuse stick or a sparkler or some other type of magnesium ribbon, or a big fuse sometimes will work. It needs a lot of temperature to ignite it, but as long as you have something like that, doesn't matter if you have kind of soggy wood or if it's windy, it will get your fire started no problem. And there's actually a lot of other uses for it too. Originally, I don't know if this was its original use, but it has been used in the past for welding. Because the end result of the chemical reaction is molten iron left over, they would use it to weld like railroad tracks together and other things like that. And you can also use it to cast rudimentary pieces. If you have a form maybe out of like sand or concrete or something like that that can survive the high temperature, when the thermite reaction happens, it leaves behind the molten iron. So if it's in some kind of shaped container and it cools, then you'll have a piece of metal in that piece. It'll be kind of a not really a super high quality steel or anything, it's just pure iron, but in certain situations that may be useful. Another thing it may be useful for is demolition. Obviously you want to check your laws regarding using thermite, because I'm not going to tell you to do anything, but it doesn't take a genius to find out what you could do with something that burns almost unstoppably at like several thousand degrees. You could use it to disable equipment if you needed to, in like a Red Dawn type situations. If the North Koreans were attacking, you need to disable a tank and you had enough of it, maybe it would work for that too, I don't know. They actually used that in the book Patriots by James Wesley Rawls. They actually created these little thermite grenades. I don't know if they'd be that effective at destroying a tank as they were in the book, but they're certainly effective at destroying things if you need to break open a lock that belongs to you. But anyways, I'm talking about obviously like a WRL situation. You don't want to do anything illegal. And for those who are questioning the legality of this, right now in its unmixed form, it's simply aluminum powder and iron oxide rust powder. So there's nothing illegal about that. Obviously, you want to check your local laws before mixing and using it or setting it off, but just to have these two things, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just iron, rust, and aluminum. Now, where would you get it? This is from buythermite.com, and you can go there and you can buy it in quantity unmixed like this, in quantities from 1 to 20 pounds, or any multiples of that, obviously, with free shipping. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick video showing you what this stuff looks like when it goes off and what it can do to some household items. Alright, how you doing, guys? I wanted to show you a couple things that we're going to be using on the thermite on to demonstrate it and show you just how serious it is. This are a couple old pieces of metal I had lying around. As you can see, it's like I don't know if that's quite a 1/4 inch, but close to it, of just angle iron. 2 pieces of that, probably put those side by side. And then we've got a couple frying pans, and these aren't super flimsy. Like this one, I can barely flex it a little bit. It's legit. That was loud. This one is even thicker. I can't flex that at all. And then I've got a heavy-ass aluminum bowl that you can see is pretty thick, and this thing weighs probably like 5 pounds. So we'll see what happens with it. Sunglasses that. That already?
As you can see, that's pretty substantial.
As you can see in the video, the thermite did a number on those pans. It melted completely through the first one, completely through the second one, which was even thicker, and then started to melt through that thick aluminum bowl and actually left a pool of like molten aluminum in the bottom at the end of it, and almost melted completely through that. So I think if they had been all together instead of separated like that, it probably would have gone through all three. And it's super powerful stuff. And I don't know if you saw in those clips that I just played how there were chunks of metal left over. That's what you can actually use or that's why you can use thermite to cast rudimentary parts or pieces or shapes, because if that was done in a mold, that metal would be left over in the shape of the mold. And very useful stuff. Super easy to start a fire with it, and I'm sure you can come up with a lot of different uses for it if things got into like a Mad Max scenario or something like that. But if you want to get some, head over to buythermite.com, and it's shipped to you separated just as rust and as aluminum. What you choose to do with it after that is on you. Check your local laws and everything, but it's super useful for a survival situation and a lot of other uses too.